thank you, everyone who is attending this reintroduction to the Aurora Public Library District Makerspace. I am really excited to have such a great turnout this evening because this is a topic that we love to talk about in my department. For those of you who don't know me, which is most to all of you, my name is Elliot Witt. I am the Assistant Manager of Digital Services here at the Aurora Public Library District. Our department both handles everything in the public computer labs, but we also take care of the Makerspace. And I think most of my coworkers would agree that the Makerspace is probably the most fun part of our job. So without further ado, I am going to get started with a little PowerPoint presentation. And then I am actually going to do something which might have a lot of bumps in the road, but I'm going to try to actually take you around the space live to show you what it's all about. So here we go. I am going to start the slideshow. Here we are. I hope you can see it. If you cannot see a slide that says a reintroduction to the Makerspace right now, you can unmute and give me a holler, but I think it should be on your screen. So here we go. This is a reintroduction to the Makerspace. So the first question that I want to answer is, what is the Makerspace? A lot of the time we take it for granted. Oh, the Makerspace. But some of you might not know what it is. So the way that I would describe it in a phrase is that it is the Aurora Public Library District's hub for creativity. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Whereas the rest of our library is, you check out a book, you bring a book back, you get on a computer to print a file. It's very, it's very much what you would expect a library to be. It's a public service-oriented building. The Makerspace is different. The Makerspace is where your ideas can come to life. And so what you do, so what we do in the Makerspace is if you want to design a gift for someone in 2D or 3D, we take that and we make it into something real that you can hold in your hands. If you need something for business or for personal reasons, a gift or even something functional for a piece of equipment, there's a good chance the Makerspace is going to be able to help. We have several different machines. You can see a few of them in the picture that is on your screen right now. And I'm going to walk you through all of them today. So what do we offer? Well, we have 5 different services that we can take care of in the room behind me right now. My favorite, I think the favorite of most of our patrons is 3D printing. It gets very heavy use. We actually have 2 different types of 3D printer. There is a filament printer and a resin printer. And if you don't know the difference, don't worry. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. So then we get to laser engraving and cutting. So that is the picture that says Epilogue Laser Mini that is on the screen right now. And that is another really exciting tool. That one is, well, I would call it our workhorse. That one actually is great for making signage or making other very functional things. And I'll talk as well as decorations. And it both engraves onto a piece of material and cuts that material out. Vinyl cutting, we have solid colored pieces of vinyl that we can feed through a machine, and you can choose a shape, choose a design. It can be words, it can be images, and it will cut out the vinyl in the shape that you want. Poster printing, that is done on our plotter printer. That's the one in the top right-hand corner. It goes up to 3 feet wide, and as long as you want, or as long as the roll will last, on a variety of different paper types. And finally, laminating. I didn't put in a picture of our laminator just because it's a laminator. Most of you are probably familiar with the concept. You might have it at your job, at your office. You might even have one at home. If you don't have one at home and you need to laminate something, the Makerspace is a good option. And not to disparage laminators here, they're very good machines. They aren't exactly exciting. So that one I didn't put in a picture of, but I will still show it to you on our tour. The next question you might ask, where is the Makerspace? Because we do have 3 branches in the Aurora Public Library District. Well, the Makerspace is located at our Santori Library. That is the big one downtown on 101 South River Street in Aurora. The Makerspace, by the way, is open from 1 to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. That is every day the library is open during the summer. Those are our current hours. Those hours can change as we are reopening for business. And so if those hours change, we will post it here in the library. We will also post it on our website. That is aurorapubliclibrary.org. Now, just because the Makerspace is located here at the Santori Library does not mean that Maker technology is completely unavailable at our other 2 branches. West Branch and Eola Road Branch each have a 3D printer and a vinyl cutter. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, but I'll tell you our West Branch vinyl cutter is actually our newest piece of equipment, and we're all very excited about it. So I'll share a little bit about that later. And if I forget, remind me, because I am probably going to say that a lot. I'll talk about it later. I'll talk about it later. Chances are I'll forget at least one thing, so feel free to shout it out if I am getting to the end of this and I've skipped something you want to hear. So, what we can do for you, you bring us the design and we operate the machines. So, let me tell you a little bit about how the process works. So, we as library staff do not make the design for you. We do ask that you bring a design on a personal storage device, such as a flash drive or an external hard drive. And once you give us the design, we will prepare the design to go to one of our machines, and then we will operate the machine to create the design in a tangible form that you can hold in your hand per your specifications. Now, if you don't have a design, do not despair, because we can provide guidance on how to create one or find one, and we actually have a lot of great software and services that are going to help you with that. I kind of separated this into 2D and 3D files. So for 2D files, we have CorelDRAW, which is CorelDRAW, Photoshop, and GIMP are all great for our posters. They are also great, especially CorelDRAW, for preparing for the laser cutter and our vinyl cutter. And by the way, I'm pointing to the machines even if you can't see them. You'll see them in a few minutes. Cut Studio is specifically for our vinyl cutter. So we have all of those pieces of software that you can use. 2D file types that we accept if you're bringing one in from home are CDR, that is a CorelDRAW file, PDF, that is primarily for the plotter poster printer. SVG is vector graphics for those of you who might be technologically inclined. JPG, PNG, and BMP are JPEGs, PNGs, and bitmaps. Those are all standard image files, and those also work for the poster printing. They can also be transformed into something that can be cut either by laser or the vinyl cutter. And finally, EPS, that is another vector graphic type, which is primarily used by Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Illustrator, by the way, I forgot to list that. We do have Illustrator in the Makerspace as well. For 3D files, the file types we accept are STL, OBJ, and G-code. If you are finding a 3D print job online, STL and OBJ, 99% of the files you'll find are one of those two types. G-code is actually what is fed into our machine. And if you aren't an expert, you don't need to worry about getting a G-code ready for us. We'll do that for you. If you are a 3D printing expert and you know exactly what you want, you can go ahead and give us a G-code file and we'll be able to work with it. And as far as software we have for 3D printing, we have Tinkercad, which is actually browser-based. It's free on your home computer as well. It's a great entry-level piece of software. A lot of kids use it. A lot of our staff use it too. I am a big fan of Tinkercad as well. It's very intuitive. Thingiverse, if you just want to find a file that's ready to print right now, Thingiverse is the place for you. They're free and they have millions of files, both functional and artistic. Mesh Mixer, again, more for the experts. I will tell you, to be honest, I only know some very specific applications for Mesh Mixer, but you can make amazing designs in it. So if you happen to be an expert, we do have that installed on our computers as well. All right, and let me talk to you just a little bit about what you can make, because I know I have been going on and on about some of our basic rules and regulations. I've told you about what machines we have here, but what types of projects do we see? Well, we have had local businesses come in and have us create keychains with their logo on them to distribute at corporate events. We had a restaurant which created wooden wall decorations here in the Makerspace. That one was really cool. I think it was a barbecue restaurant. And so they had us do like parts of the chicken, parts of the cow, parts of the pig, all like in wood on the laser cutter. Tabletop gamers have created role-playing minifigures. This is one that, as a big nerd, you might expect that working in a library, right? As a big nerd, this one is near and dear to my heart because I have done this myself here in the Makerspace. So that's a great way to have fun. You can create board game pieces here. But we've also had grandparents who come in and have created holiday ornaments or pendants or necklaces with their grandchildren's names or with other designs that have a special meaning. So it's really great. We have people from all walks of life. We have people of all ages, of all experience levels who come in here and use the Makerspace for their purposes. So it's really great. We never know who's going to walk through this door next. So here we go. Here I am going to start the kind of, like I said, experimental part of this program, which is the live Makerspace tour. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And by the way, I know I talk quickly. I'm trying to slow myself down just a little bit. If I zip past something and you think, now wait a second, I want to hear more about that, you can feel free to drop a question in the chat, or you can unmute and you can just interrupt me and I'll be more than happy to give you an answer. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to try to slow myself down. And I'm actually going to stand up, try to make this look as seamless as possible as I move you around the Makerspace. So this is a tour we usually do in person. It's really easy to do in person. We just walk in a circle around the room. And I'm going to try to replicate that. So we are going right over here to the first machine on our circuit, which is, there we go, This is our vinyl cutter. So I'm going to come down right here. So the vinyl cutter it is technically a Roland GS24. It can cut 2 feet wide and sorry, I've got a walkie-talkie over there that I forgot to turn off. So if you hear extraneous commentary, that's where it's coming. So our vinyl cutter, it can cut up to 2 feet wide. It can cut as long as you'd like. And what am I thinking? So one thing you might be asking about all these machines is how much do they cost? Because there is a cost involved. We try to keep the cost down to just what we pay to bring it to you. In this case, this is $3 per linear foot. So that means that every foot that it goes back in that direction in the vertical is $3. What we often recommend, people will come in with just like a singular design that they want to print out that might just be, this big as a finger, as big as a fist. We always recommend if you're going to pay the $3, bring in a lot of designs, bring in a lot of stickers to make and spread it out over the whole thing so that you get your money's worth. Because once you pay for that linear foot, that's your vinyl. You can do what you want with it. And speaking of the vinyl, I'm going to move the camera slightly to the side and you can see our wonderful selection of colors. We have everything from white to black and basically the entire rainbow in between. And so this machine does only cut in a single color. That's something to keep in mind. And once it's been cut, we have tweezers, we have scissors that you can use to pull off the extraneous parts of vinyl so that you have only the part that you want. And we give you transfer tape that protects the vinyl as you're moving it to whatever its final destination may be. All right. So that was our vinyl cutter. Let me move. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see an example of vinyl cutting, I almost forgot. That right there on the wall is our wonderful looking APLD Aurora Public Library District logo. And that was created right on this machine right here that I just showed you. So we cut it out, all of those little lines, all of those holes, we cut it out, we pruned off all the extraneous stuff, and then we stuck it on the wall. And I think it looks pretty nice. All right. I'm going to move right along, and you might hear some bumps or some dings as my little cart here moves into kind of a crowded area with a bunch of stools in it. All right, the next stop on our tour is also going to be our shortest because, sorry about that, I had to move some of those out of the way. Because the next stop is at our laminator. And like I said, it's a great machine. It does exactly what we want it to do. It's just not very showy. It's not exciting. But this is our Fellows laminator. In terms of cost, this costs $1 per sheet of lamination. We do have letter-sized sheets. That is your standard 8.5 by 11 size. You just bring in the piece of paper that you need laminated, and we will feed it right through the machine. And that'll be it. Once we've done that, it is yours for $1. So great little machine. We have never had a problem with it. Now,
I'm assuming that it laminates both sides.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. Good question. Yes, what we end up doing, or what we have, is we have a lamination sheet which actually peels apart, and you put your paper in the middle. We line it up correctly so it fits snugly, and then we feed it through, and it just presses the two halves together, and it makes a seamless lamination on both sides.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so moving from a machine which never gives us trouble to one which gives us a lot of trouble, but we love it anyway. This is our plotter printer. This is, we also call it the banner printer or the poster printer. It is specifically an HP DesignJet Z5600 postscript printer. We like to say this one has a bit of an attitude. We've even called it a diva on occasion. But that's our problem. That is not your problem as a patron. It always works in the end, and it always does great work when it does. Like I mentioned before, you can print up to 3 feet wide all across to the other end of the printer. And you can print in color, in black and white, and you can print as long as you want. So if you have a long banner, this machine can handle it. Let me talk to you a little bit about different paper types, because that's going to affect the cost of what you create on this machine. So we actually have 2 different costs. We have a cost for standard paper, and we have a cost for banner or photo paper. So standard paper includes just a normal paper. There's really not much to tell. It's basically computer paper in a very large size. Standard also includes a heavyweight paper, which is somewhere between computer paper and cardstock in terms of its consistency. Each of those is $5 per linear foot. So like the vinyl cutter, this is by linear foot. And so that's everything in that vertical direction. That's $5 for standard paper. For banner or photo paper, which can include glossy photo paper, it can include adhesive vinyl. It can include any other specialty papers that we might have. We have some outdoor paper varieties. We have ones with different like matte finishes. Since those are a little bit pricier, those do cost $10 per linear foot. So it's 3 feet wide, and then the linear footage in that direction. So $5 for standard, $10 for glossy or photo or banner paper. All right. Let me move on now to one of our, I always think of the laser cutter and the 3D printer as kind of our top 2 machines. They probably get the most usage, and they are the most versatile and just the most interesting to me. I do not want to disparage any of our machines. Like I said, they all do great work, but these ones, like for example, our laser cutter right here, it's not something that you see every day. So I'm actually, sorry, I'm going to grab myself a stool so I can sit down and be in the shot. So this laser cutter does a lot. We can cut a variety of different materials on it. We cut acrylic, we cut wood, we cut leather. We can even cut some other types of plastic and metal. This one we actually use a lot for our internal purposes as well as patron purposes. So if you can see, and I don't know if you can, my little name badge here, which has my name and my title and the Aurora Public Library logo, that was created right here on this machine. So we do that for all of our staff members. We actually are just now finishing up some new name badges. So if you're used to seeing us with our gray name tags, they're going away. In the next week, you'll see all of us sporting some nice new blue name tags. And so we're very excited about that.
Will it cut 3D as well as 2-dimensional?
So, that's a very good question. And The answer is no, at least as far as I am understanding the question. But let me talk to you a little bit about that. This machine, you can only put in a flat piece of material, and then it cuts shapes out of that material or engraves onto the flat material. For the most part, we do have a few exceptions to that rule. There is a way, if you wanted to be artistic, to cut a bunch of little flat pieces and then assemble them into something which is kind of three-dimensional. It's not really a way to create a functional 3D object, but we've done it and it looks pretty cool. I could actually probably at the end of the presentation show you what I'm talking about with that. The other thing that we do, which we actually just got a chance to do yesterday, is there is a rotary attachment. So it's not in there right now. Let me see if I can open this up. So what you're seeing in there right now is actually just the normal cutting bed at the top. All of this, you probably can't see very well. It's in shadow. But we actually have a rotary tool, which is used to engrave on glasses, like drinking glasses. So something like this, which has this whole intricate pattern engraved all over the glass. This was made on this machine right here. So that is one of the very cool things that we can do. That is probably one of the most technical things that we do because it's a very complicated tool to use. But we have some very, very, very smart staff members here in our digital services department, people a lot smarter than me, who know how to use that tool to its fullest extent. I love experimenting with it. I've created glasses for myself as well. So this is probably the only really functional 3D object that you can get out of this machine. And I know I took like 5 minutes to answer your question, Chris, so I hope you don't mind the tangent I went on.
That's cool. I think that's really, so you could bring your own glass in, or does it have to be a certain thickness? You couldn't cut maybe a crystal that would be thinner?
So that's a very good question. And as far as I would be hesitant to cut crystal with it being thinner, I would be, we wouldn't want to shatter a crystal, which we do have a manual which would tell me for sure.
Okay.
I don't want to hold you all up by searching through that manual, but what I would recommend, if you have a glass that you want to bring in to get engraved, you can call us up in advance and we can double check to see if we're able to do that for you.
Well, and I noticed that the glass you have doesn't have a stem.
Mm-hmm.
So am I also to assume that you can only engrave glasses without stems?
I think.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I am so glad you're asking this because these are fantastic questions and I might have gone right past the rotary engraver if you hadn't said something. I think that we can engrave glasses with stems. Here, I'm sorry, I'm looking down here at the rotary tool. Yeah. The way that the rotary tool holds a glass, it should be able to hold a glass with a stem. The one that I showed you is not the only shape that we can do. So this was the one I just showed you. We also have one like this. This one was just kind of experimental that we were playing with a bunch of different designs on. But you can see they're very different shapes and we were able to do them both. So we should be able to do a glass with a stem as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So another point that I wanted to make, which you've actually reminded me of, is bringing in your own materials to be laser cut. because we get that question a lot. We get, can I bring in my own piece of wood? Can I bring in a piece of metal, piece of plastic, my own glass? And the answer that we give is yes, with a big ol' asterisk on this side. And so here is what our rules are for bringing in your own material to be laser. If you want to bring in your own material, you do need to call us in advance, or we recommend that you call us in advance. If you do not call us in advance, make sure that you have the following. You will need to have a receipt that shows where you got the material and which tells us exactly what the material is made out of. When you bring that in, we have to bring one of our managers down. That is either myself or my senior manager. And we have to personally give it our approval before it can go into our machine. This is because a lot of materials which seem identical to the ones that we put into the machine aren't actually identical and can in fact be harmful to your health and to our health. We see a lot of wood that comes in which looks like natural wood, but actually has adhesives in it, that it's a composite piece and it's not a natural piece of wood. And what can happen is when this laser starts cutting, those adhesives get vaporized and they go into the air. And we do have a ventilation system back there, but the ventilation can't get 100% of the fumes. And so if those adhesives have materials in them or substances in them which are toxic to be inhaled, that could be a real problem. That's why it's so important that if you're going to bring in your own material, you make sure that you can tell us with a receipt where it came from and what it's made out of. That being said, we also provide material here at a cost. We have material available for purchase, and the cost of laser cutting here in the Makerspace is $2 per minute that the laser is in operation, whether that's cutting or engraving, plus the cost of any materials that you are purchasing from us. So keep that in mind if you're interested in a laser project. One thing I should mention, we do have a few flat fees. If you want to make a keychain or a cutting board, we actually have some of those as well. Those are flat fees. A keychain is only $5, no matter how long the laser takes for materials and cutting and engraving. And a cutting board is $10, I believe. Yeah, it's been a while since we sold one of those, but yes, we have flat fees for some of our specialty like gift type items. So you can keep that in mind. Just let me see. I'm going to lift up the camera briefly, and I'm going to try to do it as smoothly as possible so it's not disorienting. This is the cutting area. That is the cutting bed where we engrave everything. You can see that it's very well worn. We get a lot of use out of this machine, and it's designed so that any extraneous pieces of material are going to fall through those cracks, so that you don't get them stuck all over your finished product. So I'm going to take a drink of water. And now I'm going to move you over to the final stop on our tour, which, like I said before, is probably my favorite personally. And that's going to be our 3D printers. And I know I mentioned we have two different types of 3D printers, so let me see if I can show you both of them. There we go. Excellent. Oh, this worked out better than I thought. I'll tell y'all, I have a little cart here that I'm moving around. I had not tested it before we began tonight, so it seems to be going smoothly. I hope you all think so. And thank you for bearing with me as I move around from machine to machine. So here we are with our two 3D printers. This one is a Dremel 3D 45 Digilab, and this one is a Formlab. I believe it's a Formlab 2 is technically what it is. And they are both 3D printers. They both create 3D models out of 3D designs online, but they do it in very different ways. So the more commonly used one is the Dremel Digilab. This prints with filament, which is a spool of solid material going in, which gets superheated in the little there's no laser in here. It gets superheated in the print head and it turns molten, and then it's printed on layer by layer onto the build plate at the bottom of the machine. We can do in multiple colors. We currently have black, white, and silver right now. We have one of these at all three of our locations. So, and it's the same machine. So you can go to Eola or West, as well as here in the Makerspace at Santori, and you can use that machine. I would say it prints in very good quality. We have a few little designs that I was actually going to share later on, but I can show you. We have like a traffic cone, which, is very smooth, very nice. If I got it really close to the camera, you might be able to see some of like the little lines, which are the layer by layer. It can do fine detail. We have this little toy here. This is a T-Rex. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get that a little bit closer to the camera. It's a little T-Rex with like little kind of bones in his body there. It's actually, this one might actually be flexible. Just in case it isn't, I don't want to break it because one of my coworkers made it. So it can do some very fine detail. But it's not perfect. So the Formlab, while also not perfect, is about as close as we can get here in the Makerspace. Now, whereas this one prints with filament from a spool that starts as a solid, this one prints with resin, and resin starts as a liquid. And if I lifted this hood up and moved it around, you would actually be able to see the liquid moving inside the bed, inside the pool, in the middle of the machine. So the way that this one prints is once it gets the design, it too goes layer by layer, just like this one. But instead of building from the bottom up, it actually takes this build plate that's at the top here, drops it down into the bed full of resin, and then a little UV light fires. And that UV light fires in the exact shape of that layer of material. And it essentially crystallizes that layer onto the build plate, which then lifts up to let any excess resin drip back down. And then it goes down and it does it again. And it does that hundreds upon hundreds of times. And what you are left with is a design which can render very, very small details. I would call this one excellent quality printing. This is one of those role play minifigures, which I talked about. One of my coworkers did this. This is a robot. It's like a robot guy. It might be from Warhammer 40K, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. And so you can see the resin is clear. All of our resin looks like this. But if I turn him around, you can probably see where some really fine detail was rendered on this model, where the filament models are not quite able to get this good. Now, because this one is higher quality, there is a difference in price between the two. These go by weight, and we measure that weight in grams. So in the case of the Dremel, printing and filament at very good quality, that is 25 cents per gram. For the Formlab, it's more expensive. It is 50 cents per gram. It's still not a bad price overall, I would say. For something like this, this little model here, even on the Formlab, this is only going to run you about $5, which if you go to hobby shops and look for things of a similar size, that price beats a lot of them. Meanwhile, something like this traffic cone printed on the Dremel is this is $1.75 for something this size. And I know this is a pretty simple design. If you just wanted a cute little thing like the T-Rex, that is going to cost you maybe 25 or 50 cents. So it's pretty affordable. If you just want like a little trinket or a pendant or something like that, it is not a bad price at all. And all that being said, let me.
Oh, I have a question. Of course,
yes,
I do.
go right ahead.
What are the overall sizes you can make on both of those?
Okay, so that is a very good question. So for the Dremel, it can be up to 5 inches by 5 inches by 9 inches. And on the Form 2, that's going to be 5 inches by 5 inches by 6 inches, a little bit smaller than on the Dremel.
And the 6 inches, the height?
Yes, that is correct. But, you know, it really, we can rotate the models in our software. So if you have something which, like you wanted on the Dremel, which was like 8 inches wide. In fact, in the Dremel's case, the 8 inches might, or the 9 inches might be width. But, you know, as long as it fits within those dimensions in some way, we can rotate it around to fit into the machine. And even if it doesn't, what we can do is we can cut it into multiple prints, give it to you in multiple pieces, and then you can glue it together. And so that is how, and here I'm gonna reach across and I'm gonna grab this. One of our coworkers, one of our foremost Makerspace experts created this Lighthouse. And as you can see, this is pretty big. I've got a big head and this is about the size of my head. He created this from multiple pieces. You can actually see one of the seams right here, where he glued it together. And so it's easy to make bigger models just by making it in multiple pieces and then attaching them together.
Yes, I've done that. And I made a lighthouse and it was an incredible pain because you have to, everything has to fit together after you make each piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a bit of a challenge, but the end result can really be worth it. I'll tell you, my bookshelf at home is just lined all along the top with little 3D models that I've made down here. So I always have fun. All right, so I'm going to move back in front of the camera here. And I think I had a little bit more to my tour. Or what am I doing? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure this out now. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint very briefly. So we have gone through our live Makerspace tour, and here is just an overview of all of the costs. So once again, 3D printing is either 25 or 50 cents, depending on the machine. Laser cutting, $2 per minute plus materials. Vinyl cutting is $3 per linear foot. Poster printing is 5 to 10 per linear foot, depending on the type of paper. And laminating is $1 per sheet. And now.
Question. Yeah.
Yes, question, go ahead.
Who, me?
Yep.
Elliot, do any of the machines accommodate fabric?
Fabric?
Yes.
So that is a good question. And kind of. So I'm I'm going to stop sharing again. So things like, so I can tell you for sure the laser cutter can cut on things like leather. And I know that's not exactly the same as fabric, but I have, we have like these coasters, which are actually made out of leather that has,
Yeah.
I would guess that fabric, like soft fabric is,
Like cotton or something.
yeah, like cotton, probably not on any of these machines. That,
Okay.
however, bring me, and you know what, I'm gonna look this up really quick as I'm talking because I do not want to steer you wrong here, but I believe our new vinyl cutter that we have over at our West branch.
Mhm.
Yes, so it is a cricket. And if you have heard of crickets, they do a lot of different types of materials. And that cricket should be able to handle fabric. It's not something that we've tried. It's not something we've provided or have experience with. So you would definitely want to call ahead. But it's certainly something that we can look into further for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
What other questions?
Elliot, if you have a part,
Go ahead.
yeah, if you have a part that you need a twin of, can you just bring in the part that you have?
So that's a good question. You mean like I assume you mean like a functional piece of something, like a something from a car, or something from a something like that. So I can answer the question generally speaking. We cannot just take like an existing thing and replicate it exactly. We have the capability to scan it into 3 dimensions, but there's always going to be a margin of error. And if it's a functional part, that is going to be difficult. However, that being said, a lot of companies nowadays put their parts online. So we have done pieces for IKEA furniture. IKEA puts a lot of 3D models of their like little odds and ends on the internet for free. And so we have printed out, like a special screw or a special like holder for this or that. There are older functional pieces which have been digitized. So what I would recommend for you is, and I'll use an actual example. We had a gentleman come in just a couple of weeks ago who was looking for a very particular part from the interior of a steering wheel of, I think it was a Chevy from the 1950s. So it was a very old piece from a very old car. He was restoring it. And we were together able to find a 3-dimensional model of that piece online. So he wasn't able to bring in the piece itself and then have us replicate it, but we were able to type in, 1950 something Chevy and the name of the part, and we were able to find a 3D model, which is meant to be used in the restoration of that car. We've had people print out parts of like, I think parts for grills, parts for lawnmowers, hoods and connectors. We've had them do that on these machines as well. So, my recommendation is if you have a part, you can look it up online. You can look up, the part's name and then 3D model, or the part's name and STL or OBJ, which are the file types, and you would probably be able to find something or at least get on the right track.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, it looks like we've got about 7 minutes left.
When will you be open for 3D printing?
We are actually open already. So it is by appointment only. So that is a very good point, which I actually just realized I meant to add that slide to my slideshow and I forgot about it. So here are the details if you want to come into the Makerspace. We are open by appointment only from 1 to 5, Monday through Saturday. If you would like to make an appointment, you can either go online to aurorapubliclibrary.org, and then there's a tab that's called Using the Library at the top of the page. You can click on that tab and then click on Makerspace, and there will be a button to make an appointment. So that's aurorapubliclibrary.org, Using the Library, Makerspace, and then a button right there. I know that can be complicated. So if you'd rather give us a call, you can call our phone bank at 630-264-4117. That number is also available on our website as well. So it's 630-264-4117, and they would be more than happy to make an appointment for you as well.
I would just like to say I thought this was very informative. We had no idea what Makerspace was all about, and so it was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. So,
Yeah.
so let me here. I will wrap this up with just a couple more slides because I'm respectful of all of your time. If you wouldn't mind. I have a survey that I will drop the link to in the chat for this. It's not required. It's not required if you've attended. You do not have to take the survey. It helps me because it helps me know how I did as a presenter. It helps me know what you found most informative. And if you have ideas for things you would like to hear about in the future, it helps us know that too. So this is the link. It's on your screen right now, but I will also drop it in the chat so that it's easy for you to just copy and paste. Again, it's not necessary, but if you wouldn't mind taking the survey, and in fact, I am going to drop that in the chat right now. If you wouldn't mind, it's greatly appreciated. And so my very final thoughts are just to tell you about a couple of upcoming Makerspace programs. So we do have creating a fun and personalized vinyl decal that is for like a phone or a laptop that you can put on those devices. That is both in person and virtual. So we're going to have an in-person version and a virtual version, both occurring on Tuesday, June 22nd at 5 p.m. Everything else is virtual, including an introduction to 3D printing on Tuesday, the 6th of July, as well as creating a sign for your room, which is definitely probably targeted a little bit more towards the younger children and teens. And that is on Tuesday, July 20th, again at 5 p.m. And finally, some upcoming technology programs. If you're curious what our digital services staff are up to, we have Computer Basics on Friday, June 11th at 4. We have Free Apps for Summer Fun. That is my next personal program that I will be doing. I'll be sharing some of my favorite apps that you can use while getting outdoors. And then How to Build a Resume on Friday, July 9th at 4 p.m. And that is all that I've got. So thank you all once again so much for joining me this evening. And that's it. If you don't have any more questions, we can wrap it up right here. And again, thank you so much for joining me.